This girl is nothing but a freeloader in this house. The words slice through the golden haze of champagne bubbles and polite laughter. My brother Aiden stands at the head of the dining table, wine glass raised, his Portuguese-American features arranged in that familiar expression of smug triumph. The penthouse windows behind him frame Chicago's glittering skyline, a backdrop he's carefully orchestrated for tonight's celebration of his supposed genius. The laughter starts as nervous chuckles. Then it builds. Louder, bolder, as if he's delivered some brilliant punchline instead of a public execution. I watch faces around the table transform. Uncle Marco, who used to sneak me extra pastel de nata at family gatherings, now looks at me with something between pity and contempt. Aunt Sophia whispers to her husband, her diamond bracelet catching the light as she gestures toward me. The investors and journalists Aiden invited, people who've never heard my name despite 3 years of my life poured into this company. They're smiling, entertained. My parents sit at Aiden's right hand, my father, the company founder whose calloused hands built his construction empire from nothing. My mother, whose family brought old-world Portuguese pride and connections that opened every door in Chicago's tight-knit community. They're smiling too, strained, uncomfortable, but not disagreeing. That's when something inside me doesn't break, it crystallizes. I don't blush, I don't cry, I don't throw my wine in Aiden's face, though my fingers tighten around the stem of the glass. The room waits for my reaction, hungry for drama or tears or rage. Instead, I set down my glass. The sharp clink against the marble table sounds like a period at the end of a sentence. I turn. I walk to the elevator. Behind me, the laughter continues. The doors close, severing the sound like a guillotine blade. 3 years ago, I was someone else entirely. Taylor Costa, MIT graduate student, 24 years old, carrying a full scholarship and a thesis that was turning heads in sustainable architecture circles. My apartment in Cambridge was shoebox tiny, but the view from my desk showed the Charles River, and my future stretched out just as wide and promising. Then my father called. "Taylor, sweetheart, we need you home." The company, Costa Construction, founded by my grandfather in 1978, was facing catastrophe. A residential tower project had violated OSHA regulations so severely that federal inspectors were threatening to shut us down. Fines in the millions, potential criminal charges. My father's voice cracked when he said, "We could lose everything your avó built." I remember standing in my advisor's office, the acceptance letter for a research position at a Copenhagen firm still warm from the printer. Professor Chen had called it a once-in-a-generation opportunity. I was supposed to leave in 6 weeks. "I need to defer," I told her. "Taylor, opportunities like this don't wait. My family needs me." She looked at me with an expression I didn't understand then. Pity maybe, or resignation. I came home to Chicago. Not to the penthouse where tonight's dinner party would later unfold. We didn't own that yet. Back then, we were hemorrhaging money, scrambling to fix a project that Aiden, newly promoted to project manager despite his business degree and zero construction experience, had catastrophically mismanaged. The plan was simple. I'd spend 3 months reviewing the designs, fixing the violations, getting us back on track. Then I'd return to MIT, maybe a semester behind, but with my family intact. 3 months became 6. 6 became a year. I moved into a shipping container converted into a site office. I wore steel-toed boots instead of the dress shoes I'd imagined wearing to architecture firm meetings. I ate lunch with the construction crew, Portuguese immigrants like my grandfather had been, men who called me señorita and shared their wives' homemade caldo verde. I rebuilt that entire project from foundation to roofline. I corrected load calculations, redesigned the HVAC system, personally filed the corrected permits. Aiden's name went on everything. My name went nowhere. "You understand," my father said, "the investors need confidence. Aiden has the presence." What he meant, Aiden was the son, the heir, the one who looked good in photos. I was just the fixer. The penthouse tonight represents everything I built but will never own. Aiden bought it 6 months ago with his performance bonus, a 7-figure check drawn from profits generated by projects I designed. The space screams new money trying to look like old wealth. Portuguese azulejo tiles shipped from Lisbon, leather furniture, a wine collection he doesn't have the palate to appreciate. 50 guests circulate through rooms I've never been invited to before tonight. Developers, city council members, journalists from Crane's Chicago business. They're here because Aiden just closed the biggest deal in company history. Eco Tower, a mixed-use development that will remake a blighted stretch of the South Loop. The mayor himself is supposed to attend the groundbreaking next month. I'm here because my mother called this morning. Your brother wants the whole family present. It would mean so much to him. Translation: you're required to perform family unity. I wear a simple black dress from Target because I know better than to compete with Aunt Sophia's designer wardrobe or my mother's jewelry. I arrive exactly on time, early enough to show respect, not so early that I have to make small talk. Dinner is Portuguese fusion prepared by a chef Aiden hired, bacalhau with truffle oil, polvo with microgreens, food that would make my grandmother weep and not with joy. Aiden stands during dessert. The room quiets with practiced obedience. I want to thank everyone who made this success possible, he begins. His accent has mysteriously flattened. The Portuguese inflections our parents raised us with have been professionally sanded away. My parents, who taught me perseverance, my advisors, who believed in my vision. He lists names: investors, lawyers, the marketing firm that branded him as Chicago's green development visionary. My name isn't mentioned. Then, as if on cue, Uncle Marco, already 3 glasses deep in Vinho Verde, calls out, "What about your sister? I thought she worked at the company too." The question hangs in the air like smoke. Aiden's smile doesn't falter. "Taylor?" He gestures toward me with his wine glass. "Oh, she helps out on site sometimes. Paperwork, that kind of thing." "Paperwork?" Uncle Marco presses. "I thought she—" "This girl," Aiden cuts him off, his smile widening, "is nothing but a freeloader in this house." The room erupts. Not in outrage, in laughter. Senator Reyes, who's on the zoning committee, chuckles. Mrs. Chen from the Architecture Review Board covers her mouth, shoulders shaking. Even Father Manuel from St. Mary's, our family church, smiles into his napkin. My mother touches her necklace, that nervous gesture I know means discomfort, but she says nothing. My father clears his throat. "Aiden, come on." "What? It's true, isn't it? She lives in that container, takes a salary, contributes what exactly?" Aiden spreads his hands. "I'm just calling it like I see it." More laughter, louder now, emboldened. I set down my wine glass, stand, walk. The elevator doors close on 50 smiling faces. The descent to ground level takes 47 seconds. Somewhere during that fall, the old tailor disappears. My phone rings at 6:47 in the morning. I'm still in the shipping container I sleep in on site. A setup that sounds quirky until you're actually living in it. It's insulated, outfitted with a space heater, a narrow cot, a mini fridge. The crew jokingly calls it the boss's office. That nickname used to make me smile. Now it feels less like a joke and more like a warning. "Taylor." My father's voice comes through sharp and clipped. No hello. "We need to talk. If this is about last night, I'm really not— It's about the Eco Tower contract. There's paperwork you need to sign." I sit up, realizing I'm still wearing yesterday's clothes. I must have fallen asleep without changing. "What paperwork?" "An intellectual property transfer," he says. "Standard procedure when assets are sold." My stomach tightens. "Sold?" A brief silence. When he speaks again, his tone is steel. "We're selling Costa Construction to Meridian Development Group. Closing is in 2 weeks. All design rights need to be transferred to the company first, so the handoff is clean." "You're selling the company?" The words barely come out. "When exactly were you planning to tell me?" "We're telling you now. The lawyers will send the documents shortly. We need them signed by Friday." "And if I don't sign?" Another pause. Longer this time. "Taylor." My mother's voice cuts in, soft, practiced. She's been listening the entire time. Please don't make this harder than it has to be. You've always been the reasonable one. Reasonable. The word burns. I walked away from MIT for this company. And we appreciate that, she replies in the tone she uses when appreciation replaces obligation. But this is a family decision. The sale is happening. We need your cooperation. What do I get in return? No one answers. Then Aiden's voice slides in, smug even through the speaker. You get to keep your job. Meridian agreed to retain essential on-site staff. That's what you are, right? Staff. I designed Eco Tower, I say. Every system, every load path. You contributed, Aiden interrupts smoothly. Under my direction, as an employee, and frankly, we're being generous. Marcus at Meridian wanted a full reset. I convinced him to keep you. The container suddenly feels airless. So this is a threat? I'm saying Meridian doesn't need 2 project managers, Aiden replies. And they certainly don't need one without a completed master's degree living in a shipping container. But family looks out for family, sign the paperwork, and nothing changes. My father clears his throat. There's also the construction crew to consider, Pedro, Miguel, the others. Meridian plans to bring in their own teams, unless, of course, you'd prefer 20 families suddenly out of work. He doesn't finish the thought. He doesn't have to. I end the call without agreeing to anything. 40 minutes later, the email arrives. 57 pages of dense legal language that all say the same thing in different ways. Anything I designed, touched, or imagined belongs to the company. My name is erased, my contribution reduced to nothing. There's no compensation clause, no acknowledgement, just blank signature lines waiting patiently at the bottom. I close the document. I don't sign, not yet. I spend 2 days reading those documents, cross-referencing them with my original contract, with my thesis notes from MIT, with every email I've ever sent about Eco Tower. On the 3rd day, I make the mistake of checking LinkedIn. Aiden's posted a new photo. The construction crew gathered at the Eco Tower site, hard hats and smiles, golden hour light making everything look cinematic. The caption reads, "Grateful to lead this incredible team toward a sustainable future. #Eco Tower, #Green Development, #Team Costa." I recognize everyone in the photo. Pedro, who taught me how to read soil composition. Miguel, who catches design errors before they become catastrophes. Rosa, the only other woman on site, who brings her daughter by sometimes. I'm in the photo too. Or I was. The image has been cropped, carefully, professionally. My hard hat is visible at the edge, just enough to see that someone was removed, like I'm a ghost haunting the margin of my own work. I zoom in. My hand is still visible, resting on the blueprint tube I'm holding, but my face, my body, my existence erased. 147 likes. 32 congratulatory comments. Inspirational leadership. Can't wait to see this project completed. Chicago is lucky to have visionaries like you. I scroll through Aiden's entire feed. 3 years of posts, project completions I designed, safety awards for protocols I implemented, that award from the Green Building Council for sustainable innovation in the residential tower, my innovation, my thesis work, my sleepless nights, his face in every photo. His name on every caption. I appear in exactly 3 photos, always in the background, always untagged, referred to once as site support staff. The realization hits like cold water. This isn't neglect, this is systematic erasure. They didn't just take credit for my work, they've been methodically deleting me from the narrative, rewriting history so thoroughly that in 5 years, 10 years, no one will remember I existed at all. I think about the contracts sitting unsigned in my email, the transfer of intellectual property rights, the sale to Meridian. They don't just want my work, they want my silence. They want me to legally confirm that I was never here. And if I refuse, the threats weren't subtle. My job, the crew's jobs, 20 families who depend on this company, who've been loyal to my family for decades. Functional fixedness, that's what my psychology professor at MIT called it. When people become so used to using an object one way that they can't see its other possible uses. A hammer is for hammering, period. Even when you need to use it as a paperweight or a doorstop. My family has functional fixedness about me. I'm the fixer, the problem solver, the one who handles the grunt work while Aiden handles the glory. They can't see me as an architect, as a creator, as anything other than the tool they've always used. I close LinkedIn, open a new browser tab, search Zoe Castellano Chicago developer. Time to become unfixed. Zoe Castellano built her reputation destroying men like my father. Her firm, Castellano Development, specializes in hostile takeovers of failing construction companies. She's Portuguese-American too, second generation like me, but from the New Bedford side of the family tree, the side that made money in fishing before pivoting to real estate. My father calls her a vulture. My mother won't say her name in church. 5 years ago, Zoe tried to buy Costa Construction during a cash flow crisis. My father refused, called it betraying family legacy. They've been enemies ever since, competing for every major contract in Chicago. Her office is in the Monadnock building, all exposed brick and industrial windows. Her assistant looks surprised when I show up without an appointment. Taylor Costa, I say, I have fools. I have information about Eco Tower that Ms. Castellano will want to see. 10 minutes later, I'm sitting across from a woman who looks like she could be my aunt. Sharp features, dark eyes, the same Portuguese bone structure. She's younger than I expected, maybe 40, wearing a perfectly tailored suit that probably costs more than my entire wardrobe. You're the daughter, she says. Not a question. I'm the architect. One eyebrow rises. Your brother is listed as lead designer. My brother couldn't design a doghouse. I pull out my laptop, open the files I've spent 3 years maintaining. These are the original Eco Tower designs, my thesis work from MIT adapted for commercial use. Metadata intact, every calculation, every revision, every email. I click through. This is what Aiden submitted to the city for permits. Zoe leans forward, studies both screens. Her expression doesn't change, but I see her fingers tap once against her desk, a tell. These aren't the same designs, she says. No. He used my preliminary draft, the one I explicitly flagged as structurally insufficient. Why would he do that? Because he doesn't understand the difference. He sees drawings, assumes they're interchangeable. He doesn't know what load-bearing means. Zoe sits back. You came here to destroy your family's company. I came here because they're selling to Meridian. Once that sale goes through, every crime they've committed becomes Meridian's liability. But until then, I meet her eyes. Until then, Costa Construction still owns this disaster. Why tell me? Because you almost bought us 5 years ago. Because you know every city inspector on a first-name basis. Because you have the resources to do what I can't do alone. I pause. And because they called you a vulture for trying to save your cousin's job when my father fired him. Something flickers in her expression. You did your homework. I'm good at homework. It's the only thing they ever let me be good at. Zoe is quiet for a long moment. Then she pulls out her phone, sends a text. I want you to meet my structural engineer. If what you're saying is true, Eco Tower isn't just bad design, it's criminal negligence. It's worse than that, I say. It's a death trap with my name on it. Zoe's engineer turns out to be Dr. Sarah Kim, a licensed professional engineer with 2 decades of experience and a reputation that carries real weight. She spends 3 full days combing through my files while I keep showing up to the construction site, clocking in, doing my job, acting as if nothing is wrong. I play my part carefully. No one suspects a thing. By Friday afternoon, Sarah calls for an emergency meeting. This isn't carelessness, she says, the moment we sit down, pulling up a series of structural renderings on her screen. This is deliberate fraud. We're gathered in Zoe's conference room. Through the glass wall, the Eco Tower site is visible in the distance, its steel frame clawing upward into a dull, overcast Chicago sky. "Walk us through it," Zoe says calmly. Sarah zooms in on the foundation drawings. Taylor's original design specified reinforced concrete with steel pilings driven all the way to bedrock, she explains. That's standard practice for a structure of this height, especially given the soil conditions downtown. She clicks to the next image. This is what was actually submitted to the city. My stomach drops as soon as I see it. They shortened the pilings, I say quietly. By 60%, Sarah confirms. They also downgraded the concrete mix, reduced the rebar density, and removed 3 major load-bearing columns from the parking garage. Zoe exhales slowly. The savings. It comes out to roughly $2.3 million, Sarah replies. Straight into Costa Construction's profits. I feel nauseous. When I left for MIT, before my father convinced me to come back, I finished a complete structural package, fully engineered, ready for permitting. That's what should have been submitted. But it wasn't, Sarah says, pulling up another document. They filed this instead. The screen shows an early draft I recognize instantly. That was never meant for approval, I whisper. It was a concept sketch. I know, Sarah says. The metadata labels it preliminary, do not use. Aiden never looks that closely, I say dully. If it looks official, he assumes it is. Sarah's expression hardens. Here's the real problem. Her cursor highlights a stamp at the bottom of the page. These plans were officially approved by a licensed structural engineer, she continues, and that engineer is you. The room seems to tilt. That's impossible. Your PE license number is on every page, so is your signature. I didn't even have my license when construction started, I say. I was still logging supervised hours. Zoe leans forward. When did you get licensed? 4 months ago, I answer. I passed the exam in the spring. And your family knew? My mother hosted a small dinner, I say bitterly. Sham. She said she was proud. I swallow. She asked me to bring my stamp to the office so my father could copy it for company records. Sarah and Zoe exchange a knowing look. They forged everything, Zoe says quietly. Your name, your credentials, used to legitimize unsafe designs. If that building collapses, you're the engineer of record. You'd be charged with manslaughter. The words land like a verdict. They planned this, I whisper. That's why they kept me around, close enough to be visible but powerless. They needed a licensed engineer they could control. And someone to take the fall, Zoe says softly. I finally understand my role, their ungrateful daughter, their liability shield, their sacrifice. I don't go home that weekend. I stay in Zoe's conference room, sleeping on the couch, surviving on coffee and the Portuguese takeout she orders from a place in Little Portugal that reminds me of my grandmother's cooking. We build the case like I used to build structures, foundation first. Sarah brings in a forensic document analyst who confirms the signatures are forged. The ink doesn't match my usual pen. The pressure patterns are wrong. Someone traced my signature from another document, probably the license application form my mother copied. Zoe hires a private investigator who pulls building permits for every Costa construction project from the last 3 years. The pattern is damning. Every project shows cost-cutting that violates building codes. Every project carries my forged stamp. They've been doing this for years, the investigator says, using your credentials to legitimize substandard work. How many buildings, I ask? 14. 14 potential disasters, 14 structures where people live, work, trust that the walls won't collapse and the ceilings won't cave in. I think about the residential tower, the first project I came home to fix, the one that should have ended my father's career if the violations had come to light. They didn't actually fix it, I realize aloud. They just used my name to make the new permits look legitimate. Zoe nods. I pulled those records too. Your stamp appears on the revised plans. Plans that still don't meet code but look just official enough to pass a cursory inspection. The enormity crashes over me. My family hasn't just stolen my work, they've turned me into an accessory to crimes I didn't commit. If any of these buildings fail, if anyone dies, my name is in the records, my license, my future. We need to move now, I say, before Meridian closes the sale. Once new ownership takes over, the liability transfers, Zoe finishes, and your family walks away clean. When's the groundbreaking? 2 weeks, Mayor's going to be there, full press coverage. Aiden's planning to announce the Meridian acquisition at the same time. Maximum publicity for his big triumph. Sarah pulls up the structural analysis she's been running. I've modeled the failure patterns. With the foundation as built, the parking garage will show stress fractures within 6 months of opening. The building could partially collapse within 2 years. How many people in the building at capacity? Zoe asks. 300 residential units, 50,000 square feet of commercial space, parking for 400 cars. Sarah's voice is clinical, but her hands are shaking. Assuming a catastrophic failure during business hours, we're looking at potential casualties in the hundreds. The room goes silent. They're willing to kill people, I say, to avoid admitting they cut corners. They're willing to let you take the blame, Zoe corrects. As far as they're concerned, you're the expendable one. My phone buzzes, text from my mother. Have you signed the papers yet? Lawyers are waiting. I text back, I'll be at the groundbreaking. That's all she needs to know. The groundbreaking ceremony is exactly the moment Aiden has always imagined for himself. It's one of those flawless October mornings Chicago rarely offers. Clear skies, sharp air, sunlight glinting off steel beams. The Eco Tower construction site barely resembles a job site anymore. There's catered coffee and pastries, a raised stage with a podium, neat rows of folding chairs reserved for VIPs. Local news crews crowd the perimeter, lenses ready. The mayor's security team checks badges and scans faces. I show up in a hard hat and my site ID clipped to my jacket. No one gives me a second glance. I blend in easily, just another worker, another anonymous body in the background. I've spent my whole life being invisible here. Aiden stands near the stage, soaking in attention. He's dressed in a tailored suit beneath a spotless hard hat, so new it still has the manufacturer's sticker tucked inside. My parents stand proudly beside him. My mother is wearing her special occasion jewelry, the gold crucifix my grandmother carried with her from Portugal, the charm she believes keeps our family blessed. The mayor arrives. Applause ripples through the crowd. The speeches begin. Aiden steps up to the microphone. Today isn't just about breaking ground, he says smoothly. It's about Chicago's commitment to sustainability, innovation, and a future where 3 black SUVs roll up to the site entrance. At first, only the security guards notice, then heads turn. Whispers spread, cameras pivot in unison. 8 people step out of the vehicles. 4 wear jackets labeled City of Chicago Building Inspector. The other 4 are unmistakably marked FBI. Inspector Rodriguez, someone I've worked with closely for 3 years, moves decisively toward the stage. His expression is tight, unreadable. This site is now part of an active investigation, he announces through a megaphone, cutting straight through Aiden's speech. Everyone must evacuate immediately except Costa Construction leadership and their legal representatives. The mayor is rushed away. Order dissolves into confusion as the crowd breaks apart. My father strides forward, face flushed. What is this? We have every permit. Your permits are fraudulent, Rodriguez replies flatly. They were issued based on falsified engineering documentation. That's impossible, my father snaps. Our engineer... His gaze sweeps the crowd, searching desperately. I step out from the mass of workers and lift off my hard hat. Your engineer is right here, I say, and I never signed off on this project. Every camera locks onto me. I watch my father's expression change, recognition, disbelief, then fury. Zoe appears beside me with her attorney and Sarah. They're carrying boxes stuffed with files. This is an independent structural analysis, Sarah says, handing documents to Rodriguez. Prepared by a licensed professional engineer, it concludes that the current design poses an immediate risk of catastrophic structural failure. Behind us, a projector flickers on. A massive 3D rendering fills the screen, the skeletal frame of the Eco Tower. Then the simulation begins, floors buckle. Steel twists, concrete shatters, the building collapses in horrifying, methodical slow motion. Gasps ripple through the crowd, someone screams. My mother pushes through the chaos until she's standing in front of me. "Taylor," she whispers, shaken. "What have you done?" I hold her gaze. I finally stopped letting everyone else carry my name. Nearby, FBI agents place Aiden in handcuffs and begin reading him his rights. My family's empire crumbles faster than the tower ever would have, right there, in front of everyone. The legal proceedings take 8 months. My father loses his contractor's license permanently. Multiple buildings are condemned pending safety reviews. The residential tower, the first project I supposedly fixed, is evacuated when inspectors find the stress fractures Sarah predicted. My mother loses her position on the church board, loses her standing in the Portuguese-American community, loses the reputation she spent 40 years building. Aiden faces criminal charges, fraud, forgery, reckless endangerment. He's offered a plea deal. 7 years. Meridian cancels the acquisition 12 hours after the FBI arrives. The company issues a statement about unforeseen irregularities and commitment to ethical development. I testify at every proceeding. I bring my files, my metadata, my emails. I bring the timeline showing that every decision I objected to was overruled. I bring Pedro and Miguel and Rosa, who confirm that I was the one actually running projects while Aiden played architect in photo ops. The judge believes us. My credentials are cleared. The State Board of Engineers issues a formal statement acknowledging I was a victim of identity fraud. My PE license is secure. But clearing my name isn't the same as justice. Justice comes 6 months later. Zoe offers me a partnership in Castellano Development, not just a job, equity, a seat at the table, my name on the door. I've acquired the Eco Tower site, she tells me. Bought it from the bankruptcy proceedings. It's yours if you want it. I stand at the edge of the lot where my family's company was supposed to build their masterpiece. The foundation they poured has been demolished. The site is empty again, scraped clean down to dirt. I want to build it right, I say, the way I designed it originally. Then let's build it right. It takes 3 years. I redesign everything from scratch, stronger, safer, more sustainable than the original vision. I hire my own crew, Pedro as site supervisor, Miguel as construction manager, Rosa as safety officer. I stamp every document myself, my signature, my license, my responsibility. When Eco Tower finally opens, it wins awards. Real awards from engineering societies and green building councils. Articles are written. My name appears in Architectural Digest in Engineering News Record. My parents don't attend the opening ceremony. Aiden is still in prison. I receive one letter from my mother. It's short. Your grandmother would have been proud of what you built. I'm sorry we couldn't see what she saw in you. It's not enough, but it's something. I frame the letter and hang it in my office next to my MIT diploma and my PE license. Some people say I destroyed my family. They're wrong. I stopped holding up people who were determined to fall. Justice isn't revenge. Justice is refusing to be crushed by someone else's weight. Justice is building your own foundation straight and true and letting those who can't stand on their own finally face the ground. I'm not a freeloader anymore. I'm an architect.